So heading into the round of 16, we now have unlimited transfers after the group stage has now completed, and it was a fantastic group stage for myself in Club World Cup Fantasy, hitting a rank of 204th. And if you were to ask me before the tournament if I would have been happy with that rank, I would have absolutely taken that. So a fantastic group stage. We're hoping to take it in to the knockout stages. Today we've got clean sheet odds, goal odds, and players and teams that you could potentially go for in the round of 16, as well as a chip strategy if you have any chips remaining, and when I'm going to be using the new qualification chip within the last 4 rounds of the tournament. So let's jump straight into it. So a bit of a drop off since last match day, unfortunately. I did make it up to a high of 41st in the world, and unfortunately match day 3 wasn't too kind to me with a lot of my players. A lot of them get benched, a lot of them blanked. It really wasn't too great. As you can see by the bench, we've got Cucurella in there and Pedro Neto, 2 players who I essentially thought were nailed on for Chelsea, having to win that game to try and top the group. Unfortunately, those guys ended up getting benched, and the player who I actually was considering was Adebayo for Chelsea, under 5% owned, and he obviously scored and kept a clean sheet as well. I was put off by the predicted lineups having Chalobah in there instead. Adebayo ended up playing and doing really well, which was really unfortunate, especially when I then picked Cucurella, who didn't play. I did have Colwell in. He ended up rising over 5% after our team selection video as well. So a couple of changes were made with some differentials hitting above that 5% mark. Obviously, we were waiting on PSG lineups as well before match day 3, and we ended up having Mayulu starting up front for them. So last minute, I did bring him in, and unfortunately, it was one of those ones where you probably would have preferred not to see the lineups, because I would have had Kvaratskhelia, who ended up with a 9-pointer and doing really well. However, I did then bring in Hakimi, who wasn't predicted to start, and he done really well with his 14-pointer. The big upset of the tournament obviously was Boca Juniors, blanks all round for those guys, despite having I think 41 shots as well, which is absolutely insane. Merentiel with 2 points, and also conceding to Auckland after going for the double Boca defence and losing out on a lot of points there as well. So not really too great of a match day. Ended up with a match day rank of 70,000. I think there's about 190,000 active teams, however many of them as well have gave up on the game. So yeah, really not that great of a match day at all, but we're still sitting at a very respectable rank of 204th, still very within means of a very high finish by the end of the tournament. So a lot of things to look out for the remaining rounds. So looking ahead to the draw then, these are our games for the round of 16, and according to Opta, these are the chances of each of these teams going through. We've got a lot of decent fixtures available. We've got 5 teams with a 75% chance or more to go through, including PSG, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, Manchester City and Inter Milan. Now Inter Milan are actually given the highest chance of the round of 16, which is quite surprising considering PSG are playing against Inter Miami, who are, I would argue, considerably the worst tournament left, the worst team left in the tournament. But yeah, Opta does seem to prefer Inter Milan, so they are at the top with 84%. It is only 1% more, mind you, but a lot of good teams. Now this does open up the qualification booster chip, because there is 5 teams with a very, very nice chance of going through. If you want to know more on the qualification booster, then make sure to check out this video at the end of this one. It will be linked at the end as well, so make sure you go and look at that. It will tell you everything you need to know on that qualification booster chip, when the best time to potentially use it as well, and just everything else, just in case you are still deciding. But like I said, there is still a lot of opportunities available in the round of 16 for players to get 2+ points. Now, as I mentioned at the end of that video, I'm going to be using the qualification booster in the round of 16, and I'm going to be targeting these 5 teams: Inter Milan, Man City, Bayern, Dortmund and PSG. As we had just looked at, they are the 5 teams with a 75% chance or more of going through to the quarterfinals. I do like to try and split tournaments like this into each individual match day to try and have the best possible squad for each match day. So I had the best team for match day 1, 2, obviously wildcarded in match day 3. So now we're looking ahead to the round of 16, and you do get 4 transfers before the quarterfinals, so I think that is plenty. And I think, again, targeting these teams, you are not going to have a lot of eliminations. So 4 transfers, and the fact it's only a -3 hit. If I do have to take a hit, it's not really going to be the end of the world. I will have Inter and City players playing against each other, potentially PSG and Bayern players playing against each other as well. But I think with those 4 transfers, I should be in a decent enough place to potentially have a really good quarterfinal team as well. If you do have some chips left over, however, whether that's the 12th man, wildcard, or maximum captain, I do think these are going to be the best rounds to use them. I think if I had every single chip left over, the 12th man would be used in the round of 16 with the wildcard in the quarterfinal. I would then use the qualification booster in the semi-finals. Again, there is a load of in-depth information in the qualification booster video as to why the semi-finals looks like a good option. And then the maximum captain's definitely one for the final. Again, with the 12th man, you want to be using that as soon as possible and probably going for a 5th PSG player, going for another attacker. Hakimi, Mendes, probably in every single team. Dembele, Kvaratskhelia, you've got Doué, Vitinha, lots of good options. So I'd be definitely using the 12th man to target PSG there. Then you can use the wildcard in the quarterfinals. That way you really can focus your team on the round of 16 to go for probably the last round of easy fixtures. The quarterfinal is where it's going to start getting a little bit more difficult. Again, qualification booster, all that information's on the video for that in the semi-final, and then the max captain just makes the most sense in the final because you only get one shot at that captaincy. So that's what I would be doing if I did still have chips left. But back to the round of 16, these are our clean sheet odds for this week thanks to Elevenify. Their link will be down in the description if you want to have a more in-depth look at matchday 4. But we have a lot less clean sheet odds, a lot less chances of a clean sheet now that the group stage are over. We did have a lot of teams above 70% in the group stages. Now we're looking at PSG at the top with 47%, which isn't too high, but it is the best for the round. So again, Hakimi, Mendes, high chances of a clean sheet, and of course high chances of attacking returns in there as well. Borussia Dortmund in at 40%. They are still a team that have a lot of lowly owned defenders. Svensson looks really nice, but he is over 5% owned. He is definitely going to be your best Dortmund option though. Arguably 2 goals in the group stage. One did count as an own goal, however. But again, you still have the likes of Ben Sebaini, Anton, even Kuto. He was only 1% owned and he started in the last 2 matches. All options under 5% that you can potentially look at for Borussia Dortmund. Bayern Munich at 39% chance, obviously playing against Flamengo. You've got Man City 37 as well as Inter Milan. Then we've got, starting to get into a little bit of the lower clean sheet odds. Real Madrid at 34%, Chelsea at 32%, Palmeiras have a 32% chance as well. And then it is into the really low odds. Botafogo only given a 20% chance of a clean sheet, and then the rest of your teams below that. So a bit surprising, I think, that Palmeiras are given the better chance of winning against Botafogo. But again, you've got a lot of decent defenders for Palmeiras who have done really well. You get Piqueres, who does play as the wing back and as the penalty taker for Palmeiras as well, and obviously Weverton I think is one of the highest point scoring goalkeepers in the game so far. Has risen above 5% though, so you won't be getting any scouting bonus from him. As far as predicted goals go, again, we are looking at essentially the same list in the same order. PSG at the top, City in second. We've got Bayern, Inter and Dortmund. Again, our 5 target teams that we did mention for the qualification booster chip. Real Madrid in there at 1.73 as well. Again, the predicted goals are a lot less in this round than they were in the group stage. So if you're looking for, multiple attackers, you're going to be looking at PSG, you're going to be looking at City and probably Bayern as well. Inter and Dortmund are looking pretty decent too, with 1.99 and 1.93. Other than that, you're probably just going to be looking at one attacker. I wouldn't be doubling up on anyone, Real Madrid or under. I just feel like it doesn't seem as optimal, and you really want to be looking at those 5 teams at the top. So PSG and City, you probably want to be looking at 2 if possible. The same with Bayern Munich. But yeah, your 5 target teams are really where you want to be looking for your whole team, because they're up there for clean sheet odds as well. So with that being said, this is where my current team is at, and again, now that we're into the round of 16, there's a lot less teams available and the pool of good players is shrinking, so trying to get players under 5% owned is very, very difficult. There is still a couple of decent options available, but with my team, I've only got one player under 5%, and it is Ben Sebaini, and I'm going to talk about him in a little minute. But starting off with our front line, I've got Igor Jesus. Now, I'd like to thank FPL Tom for this suggestion, because I didn't actually realise how cheap he was, but he's only 4.1 million, and it does give you a captaincy option for the Palmeiras Botafogo game. Yes, Palmeiras are the favourites to win that and go through, but I think the value of Igor Jesus is really, really nice. Is a little bit over the 5% ownership mark though, which is unfortunate. And I'm also playing Weverton in goals, so one of those guys is going to end up eliminated, which isn't too great, but the budget doesn't really allow for any other goalkeepers, and Palmeiras' clean sheet odds are, you know, still fairly decent, so he does seem like the best goalkeeper at that price. I've got Harry Kane, who I do think is the best striker option for the premiums. I do prefer him a little bit to Erling Haaland. Obviously Mbappe as well has a pretty difficult fixture. I think Kane's just someone who is just a really nice one to have. Obviously Bayern are one of the favourites to go through to the quarterfinals, and Kane is just someone you can keep until Bayern eventually get eliminated or win the tournament. I've got Lautaro Martinez as well. I think he's just my Inter Milan attacking cover. You know, he's definitely the main man up front for Inter Milan. Doesn't take penalties, obviously, when Çalhanoğlu's on the pitch. Other than that, he should be there, and he's someone that is only 11% owned. You know, I think for 9.8 million, I think he is, like, just a little bit below the premiums. He's a very good value, and I do want to have an Inter Milan player in there because, again, they are the favourites according to Opta to go through to the quarterfinals. So I think he has very good potential of doing well, and I haven't really seen him into too many teams. My midfield is looking very strong. We've got Elise in there, who is, again, the most owned. I think he's one of the most owned players in the team. Everyone has him. He's absolutely essential. I've got Vitinha and Dembele in there. Dembele should be back for the round of 16. If he is not, I will just switch him to Kvaratskhelia, but he should be available. And then I've got Vitinha in there. I think he's only 6.1 or 6.3 million. Very good value. Obviously takes the penalties as well for PSG, so he is definitely going to be in there as a very nice cheap midfielder. Phil Foden is going to be my Man City attack cover. Again, second for predicted goals, and the fact I'm not going for Erling Haaland, Phil Foden is going to be my captaincy option for Manchester City against Al Hilal. And even if I had Erling Haaland in this team, I probably would be going for Foden instead. He's had a very good tournament so far when he has played, so I think he does get the nod, as hard as it has been to try and predict Manchester City so far. I think Foden does play, as he has been one of the better players for City at this tournament. Then I've got Enzo Fernandez in there as well. Now, he could basically, if you watched, I made a video recently with FPL Tom and FPL Mate over on FPL Mate's channel. Make sure to go check that out if you're looking for any more tips on the round of 16. But I did mention Caicedo in that video. Now, I do really like him, but more so if I had a wild card remaining in the quarterfinals, because Caicedo is someone, if you're going to be using your qualification booster, is likely to go through and get 2 points there. 2 points for being under 5% owned. He's only 2.4% owned at the minute, so you're looking at 4 points and then 6 points with him getting the 2 points for 60 minutes as well. And he has been getting tackles as well anytime he has played, so you're looking at 7 points from Caicedo for not getting any attacking returns. The only issue with him is I'm not going to be wanting him for future rounds, because I'm not going to have the qualification booster, so he's going to be unlikely to pick up scouting bonus points, and he probably doesn't get any more than 2 in the quarterfinals or further. So he's a really good option for the round of 16 if you're using the qualification booster chip, but after that he really doesn't look that great, and I'm not prepared to use a transfer on him, so I have gone for Enzo Fernandez, who I definitely would be wanting for the quarterfinals against Palmeiras or Botafogo if Chelsea do end up going through. So that's where I'm at with the Chelsea midfield. In defence, again, we have a lot of high owned players with high ceilings. Hakimi and Nuno Mendes, I think they actually were the 2 first players in my team when I did make this. So, you know, PSG very high for clean sheet odds, the highest of any team in the round of 16, and those 2 get forward so much and are very capable of attacking returns. So they're definitely in there. I've got Ait Nouri as well, who's looked fantastic so far for Man City. Again, City do have nice clean sheet odds, and another player who just bombs forward, can easily score, can easily get assists, and again, it's another player from Man City who is going to be able to cover. We've got Dumfries as well. Now, again, another one who I did mention was Darmian. I obviously do have now Jan Sommer in goals, so I don't want to triple up on the Inter defence just in case, but I've got the double up of Dumfries and Sommer. With Bensebaini in there, I'll talk about this now. I had Kobel in goals with Darmian as my defender. Essentially, why I've changed to Sommer and Bensebaini is because Bensebaini gives me the captaincy pick for the Dortmund match rather than Kobel. Now, Bensebaini is the one that's under 5% owned, so if Dortmund do keep a clean sheet, then he gets 2 scouting bonus points, which Kobel wouldn't do. Obviously, when it comes to Inter Milan, Darmian was never going to be my captain. It was either going to be Dumfries or Lautaro Martinez. So that's why I have swapped over there. Neither Kobel or Sommer are under 5% owned, so there was no, differentiating between those two. I just think Bensebaini as a captaincy option is going to be better than Darmian, who wouldn't have been a captain. So that's kind of why I've went for what I have went for. So I think that basically rounds up everyone in the team. I have managed to cover 7 captains of the 8 matches. The only match I don't have a captaincy for, and that is going to be Real Madrid and Juventus, who I'm happily to totally miss out on that game, because I do feel as though Juventus could potentially win that game. I don't think Real Madrid have looked too sharp, and Juventus looked really good in their first 2 matches. Obviously not great against Man City, but it was basically a backup team that they did put out. So I think there's a chance that Juventus can cause an upset against Real Madrid, so I'm just going to totally avoid that, especially with this qualification booster active. And of my 15 players as well, 12 of them are from the 5 target teams that we wanted to look at. So we could potentially look at 12 players qualifying, hopefully, from this round. Obviously only 11 of them can pick up the scouting bonus, so we potentially could be looking at max points with 22, but anything I think 16 or above is going to be considered successful, and I think this is a really nice team as well for the quarterfinals. And then we obviously get 4 transfers as well. So that's kind of how the team is going to look. That is going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, and again, make sure to check out the qualification booster video if you haven't seen it already. Subscribe with notifications on so you know exactly when the Club World Cup content does come out. Good luck for the round of 16. I'm hoping to climb into the top 100 myself. Hopefully we are going to have a good match day and we can celebrate at the end of it. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.